Folks, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show, and it is an honor to bring back a friend to the program, a guy who has been a compass for me as far as enlightenment and knowledge from a distance at another continent. He continues to play in communities, rich and poor, opening his heart, trying to show his true nature, and still cultivating love. Mahavishnu, John McLaughlin, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Wow, what an intro, Jay. Thank you. Wow. I'm humbled.
You know, John, I wanted to... I have a game on this program called Name That Voice. I don't have the voice queued up, but I'm going to read you the quote, and I want you to tell me who you think it is.
Okay.
Okay? John McLaughlin... You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
John McLaughlin came to where I was playing and where I was living. In the morning, we had a meditation together in my cabin. On the wooden floor of my cabin, we're praying together. All of a sudden, I hear what sounds like a faucet running, this dripping sound. Now I'm concerned that this dripping sound is going to interrupt Mahavishnu. About 20 minutes later, I see John bow, so I emulate him. When I come back up, he looked at me, I look at him, and I notice his entire face is full of tears. The dripping sound was the sound of his tears hitting the floor. I thought it was a faucet that had been left on. That's the kind of stuff that made me step back and say, "Oh my Lord, what have I gotten myself into?" Who is that person, John?
Oh, man. That's a tough nut.
That is Narda Michael Walden.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Do you recall that?
I should have known.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yes.
I guess.
What a lovely soul he is.
Well, I've been woodshedding quite a bit since I last talked to you, and I had a chance to do a pretty exploratory interview with Narda, and he talked about you obviously in glowing terms, but I mean, I guess I just wanted to ask you about, again, letting go. I mean, the idea that he looked up and thought it was a running water, but it was tears coming from you. And that emotional paradigm, how do you access that emotion, John? I mean, to me, that's deep, deep emotion.
That's the best thing I've learned, Greg, is not to think, and just to act instinctively, intuitively. And it's just like playing music. And when you play music, if you're thinking, you're not playing. And if you're playing, you're not thinking. So if you're just acting directly, then you're not thinking about your actions. You know what I mean? It means you're spontaneous and in a sense, free. That's really all I can say. And this is my goal in life, is to quit thinking and just act.
But hold on. This was meditation. I have another quote where he said, "You say to him, 'You don't listen enough, but I will teach you.'" But this was not during the act of playing music. This was pure meditation when it is the hardest.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what did I say? I'm sorry, Jake, you have to speak up a little.
Sure. Sorry. No, the quote that I read, though, was meditation before actually playing. So you still feel it's like, during meditation, how do you not think?
Well, if you try to stop thinking, you're thinking about stopping thinking, aren't you?
Yes.
You got to let go. And meditation is really the art of letting go and detach yourself from thoughts. You can, of course, in meditation, we can use a focus on something, a chant, the sound of a voice, some sacred syllable, a photograph of some holy person. This is something that you can focus on. But there's another way, and that And I would refer to what the Zen Buddhists say is that our nature has always been pure and simple, but we complicate things by thinking of it and thinking of what just happened or what happened yesterday or what will happen tomorrow, instead of living absolutely the present moment, because the present moment is the only moment we have. So how deeply can we live the present moment? Because the present moment is just one after the other. It's even wrong to say, because the present moment is infinite and eternal. And if you can get into that, if you can experience that, the fullness, I mean, I hesitate to say the infinity and the eternity of the present moment, but nevertheless, there are aspects of the present moment in its fullest definition. And in meditation, we're at the opportunity to experience that, and the experience of the fullness of the present moment will affect your life forever, because your perspective changes, and you see things differently. In effect, the world changes because your awareness has changed. And this really is the whole point of, to me, of meditation. But it's the same goal in music, Jake. It's what I said before, because if I go on stage, I'm thinking, while I'm playing, I'm going to play this, or I'm going to play that, then I'm not playing. I'm thinking, this is not playing music. I have to abandon everything. And basically, everything I've learned, everything I know, all my experiences, I have to go to the stage and let it all go. Just let go of everything and just be in the present. And whatever happens, whatever comes to me in this moment, then that's what it is, you know. Of course, we have structures set up in music. And you can even have a kind of structure set up in meditation in which you kind of guide yourself either through chanting, which is always very useful, to a particular point where you don't need to chant anymore. And so you're using a simple structure with the aim of transcending your everyday consciousness. And in music, there's no point in explaining what you know, because that's part of your everyday consciousness. The whole point is in music, especially the music we play, is to find what's eternally new. And if we have that moment, if we experience the moment, then everything is new in that moment. It sounds really weird to try to say it in words, Jake, but...
No. This is becoming more... Yeah. No, this is becoming more and more clear to me, even as a non-musician every day, because it is futile. It really, I mean, it's only crystallized maybe in the last few months. I mean, I talked to you 2 years ago, but now I really understand the beauty of just the moment, the time that we spend right now, or just staying in that moment. But I wonder if, how do you deal with it if there's a musician? I mean, I have to believe that in your career, there was a musician who was pissing...
What? Sorry?
I have to believe that in your career, there was a musician on stage who was not listening to the band and was pissing you off. So how all of a sudden you're thinking, I have to, how do you non-verbally deal with people who are not following the structure of the music?
Well, I mean, then you're in a tricky situation. It's like having a conversation with somebody who's talking about some totally different subject, isn't it? You know, I mean, why bother? No, the thing about music, which is why it requires your life's dedication, in a nutshell, Jake.
Yeah.
Because there's a number of elements that need to be mastered. But listen, you might as well do something good with your life. And I don't necessarily say master an instrument, because we don't master an instrument, we master ourselves. I mean, I have a guitar, You have a guitar, you don't play, we both pick up the guitar, I do something. Why? Because I spent 60 years of my life dedicated to it. And why? Because I know that freedom exists, liberation exists. And the experience of liberation you can have in what I spoke about a few minutes ago in meditation. You can have that experience of liberation. Liberation from your own mind, where you sail like a bird in a different state of consciousness. And basically, in music, my goal is to experience liberation. Why would we go through so much hard work to master the instrument? You talk about mastering the instrument. You're mastering yourself. That's the only difference between you and me. I've mastered myself in terms of that instrument, and you will master other things in the terms of whatever you do. And then you have to master your harmony. You have to know. You have to have your knowledge. You have the intellectual knowledge. You have to have the physical awareness of your instrument and what kind of imagination you have. Because imagination, like anything else, like a muscle, can be cultivated. So, what's the point of going to the stage with your colleagues? Because when I talk about liberation, I'm talking about individual and collective. Because the collective experience is really what we can achieve in music. And this is an irreplaceable experience that you're not even able to have in meditation. It's in a way one of the ultimate experiences where you're playing with musicians and you're moving solely by instinct, by intuition. Of course, you're using a structure, but you've forgotten the structure. You know the structure. You don't have to think about the structure. The structure is part of the way you're going. And when you have people who are accompanying you, or you're accompanying them, and they find the inspiration comes all of a sudden. The one thing that nobody can control, inspiration. That all the work is in the hope that that beautiful magic bird will land on your shoulder and off you go. And the minute you get that, everybody on the stage, all the musicians know, as soon as that's there, and the band get it, and then the audience get it, and that's all they're waiting for. That's all I'm waiting for when I'm in an audience. I'm waiting for that experience from the musician where he feels liberated. And the musicians around me, they feel liberated too. And I get that. And I know, everybody knows what music is. Everybody knows what music's about. You don't have to be musicians, because music is part of the structure of the human soul and the human heart. We're made out of music in a way. All these vibrations. So everybody knows when that thing happens. And also, conversely, they know very well when it's not there. Because they're waiting for that thing that will give them experience of liberation. Because that's what music is. The act of playing music is really intimate. And the act of listening to music is equally intimate. And so we're all waiting for this wonderful, intimate experience when you are confronted and exposed to that experience on the stage where the musician is being liberated, because that liberates me in the audience. And that's really the goal. The one thing that we do not have control over, the why we dedicate our lives to, you could say it's an exercise in vanity, but...
Right. Well, how successful have you been at mentoring your children to stay in the moment?
Nurturing my children
to stay in the moment.
Stay in the moment?
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like... I do the
best I can.
Yeah.
I do the best I can. But I don't use just music. I use humor. Because humor is a marvelous tool. Because when we laugh, we are at our most spontaneous. We are totally gone. The moment where we start laughing is the beautiful moment. It's a kind of small experience of liberation. to me. Why I love humor. And so humor has been a very important lesson for in this house.
Can you give an example?
An example?
Well, an example of people, maybe one of your kids projecting into the future,
Okay.
and yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, let's, you know George Carlin.
Of course.
George Carlin used to open up the Mahavishnu Orchestra in the 70s. I'm a big fan of George.
He used to open? That's
okay, I'll give you
unbelievable.
an example of one thing he said.
Yeah.
Men and women. He says, what's the difference between men and women? It's real simple. Men are stupid. Women are crazy and men are stupid. and the main reason women are crazy is that men are stupid.
I understand. It's awesome.
I think he is so on the nail.
Yeah.
It's just because, I mean, irrespective of whether you're a patriarch or a matriarch. Personally, I'm a matriarch. I think women should be leading the world. We've got these moronic men, our so-called leaders, and but there you go. And
Well, no, I mean, if
it's a classic example of opening a different perspective to a young mind on women and men, because it's very funny. But at the same time, in humor, there's always this element of truth, Jake, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely.
If there isn't, then there's something wrong with it, you know?
Well, I mean, I think that I think you're spot on. I think that if we will see another golden era in the world, women leaders will come and save the day. Men are really fumbling the ball, but
may your words come true, Jay, because when I look around this nutty world, I mean, really.
It's affecting every. I can tell you on a macro level and a micro level, it's impacting every single family in the world, every single person this insanity. The world is, even since we last talked, it's just boiling over more. And I wanted you to go back when you were with Shakti, or when you started to collaborate with Zakir, and could you talk about going to the first time you went to India, or like Calcutta, a very rough town where they pick up bodies in the street and you're playing? Was that an eye-opening experience for you? Can you talk about the first time you went to an impoverished Indian village and what that?
Well, I think. I mean, you're not finding bodies in the street. You see bodies being carried to the funeral pyre, and this is something else. But this is one of the reasons why we took my whole family about 10 years ago. We passed 6 months in India, so that our boy would be able to spend and go to school there and see the other how another billion people live.
Right.
Because there are very different attitudes toward life and death than exist in the West, and you can learn from many things from other people, other cultures. And for example, that you will see people carrying a dead body to the funeral pyre, and this is natural. This is in the West we hide the dead. Not only that, we hide the mutilated, and we hide the very handicapped, whether mentally or physically. And but I'll tell you one experience that we wanted our boy to go through. In Bombay, there's a kind of jetty into the sea, about 1 kilometer long, and on either side of this jetty are handicapped people, and they could have no arm, no leg, or no arms, or no legs, or be mentally handicapped, or just, lost.
Yeah.
And they're there begging, and it's about 1 kilometer long, so it'll take you quite a few minutes to walk along it. So there are lots of like I don't know, a couple of hundred beggars there. And so, and at the very beginning of this jetty out into the sea, there's a money changer. He doesn't change farm money. He'll change like 1,000 rupee note into 10 rupee coins, something like that. So that's what we did. We gave a bag of these coins to our boy, and we said, okay, we're going to walk along this jetty, and you're going to give a coin to every beggar you see. I know people might say that's kind of brutal, but it's not brutal. If you look, they're human beings. They may be missing arms, legs, or whatever. They may be missing their common sense, but they're human beings. And we have to see these people. They belong to us. Everybody belongs in this human family. And the reason the world is going to the dogs, in my opinion, is we do not take care of each other. We don't care enough for each other.
I think you're 100% right.
Talking about speed and acquisitions, we cease to care. We're thinking about profit. How much can we make from this? How much can I get from this? Instead of, how can I help this person some way? You know? And I think once we change that around and people start caring for each other instead of how much can I make from this, the problem is society is run on greed and acquisition. And so people are almost kind of, they're in blinkers. But, and they're cultivated by this, by advertising, by travel brochures, that if I have enough money, I'm going to be real happy, and this is the democratic capitalist way. But it's ended up being really greed rules, and it's just really unfortunate. I mean, you've seen the demographics in America in the last 20 years, how I don't know the percentage, but maybe like 30% of the wealth was owned by 30% of Americans. And now the greater part of the wealth of the United States is owned by 7% of the people. And there's something wrong here. And it's not just America, it's the world, but America is the imperial and democratic power in the world, isn't it? I mean, you're American, I lived there, I know.
Yeah.
That's the American way.
Well, I mean, I want to go back. Can you talk about your son's experience, what he said to you, or what kind of impact he had? To me, that is so beautiful that you and your wife, as a team, coalesced and gave him this experience, because a lot of Western parents, like you said, the disabled are hidden. The beggars are put off to the side. So there's a fear element. They're different. They're strange. Don't look at them. Don't see them. But yet your son had.
You hit the nail on the head, Jake.
Yeah.
That's that word, fear. Fear of ugliness, fear of to see mutilated human beings. It's not pretty at all. It's not pretty at all. But what it does, if you just stop judging them for a second and just see a human being in front of you, then this is the best way you can learn something of compassion and acceptance, that they are human beings and not to be feared, but to be really accepted, at least, and at best embraced. Now, I know I'm really going out on a hippie limb here.
That's fine.
But that's really, we have to embrace each other. We have to embrace. I mean, look, in America, the poor in America, how many more poor are there in America now than there used to be?
I can tell you right now, John, I can tell you now, it is an epidemic. It's an epidemic now.
Terrible. I mean, we're headed really to not a very nice place. It's already not a nice place. And the paranoia. I did the White House last week.
Yes.
The UN Jazz Day, which was marvelous. But getting into the White House was an exercise in patience. And the institutionalized paranoia, I don't say that it's unnecessary, because there are many people in the world who hate America and hate Americans. And at some point, the question should be asked, well, why did you hate us?
That's right.
You know, what have we done in the past? And these are questions that should be asked even at school. But nevertheless, the institutionalized paranoia, where musicians have to lay their instruments down on the pavement next to the guardhouse and then hold to beat it and wait while the dogs come and sniff, and while the Secret Service examine all the instruments, in the event that one of us is a bad guy.
Right. It's just unbelievable.
It's pretty astonishing to see how developed the paranoia has become, and it's so unfortunate, because we have to learn to trust each other at some point. And but the problem is that it's not going to happen overnight. Society's values have to change, and they are not going to change without a big shockwave and a lot of resistance from very powerful people. But I'm not talking communism. Don't get me wrong. I'm not at all for one size fits all. I totally disagree. Communism and socialism is an ideal that is forgotten about, the soul of man, and how human beings can be spiritually corrupted. Because what happened with communism in Russia? You have the philosophy of the personality, of the culture of the personality, and so the general secretary, like whoever it is, Lenin or Stalin, they become God, and everybody has that divine aspect in them. So, when atheism started out from the very beginning being atheistic, it was doomed from the beginning, because people want God, they want spirituality, they want the soul, they want the spirit. But the other extremes, of course, is what we have now. This society, our society, based on greed.
Yeah, and I almost feel like people that would agree with what we're talking about right now in the political spectrum, they seem to be No, but it's like even people like
don't have a house. They lost a house in the crisis. They lost their job. They lost everything.
Well, no, I mean there's a lot of different. I'm just saying, people theoretically. Okay, you met you got a chance to hang out with Barack Obama. He is just one man. Even people that I believe truly want to affect consciousness through the bully pulpit or through political leadership, they almost feel like they have to apologize to the capitalist greed people. They can't really be completely authentic. The only cat is Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is speaking he's speaking a McLaughlin, Feinberg kind of tune, and it's resonating, but yet he's cast to the side because he's a socialist. Yet nobody even knows what that word means.
You're absolutely right. In a way, there's because he has a lot of support in the younger generation. Because the younger generation, they're less foolish than the older generation. They still have some ideals, and they know what we all need, and what we have to work together. We have to care for each other. That's Bernie's message. The thing is, Bernie would be a perfect president in Denmark, say.
Right.
I know. Nothing would make me happier than if see Bernie make it. But there are too many Americans who are not ready for him. They consider him too radical, almost too socialist, And, he's talking about free education, free health. Wonderful. Why not? There's lots of countries in the world have it. Germany, Europe, France. Your country, you make health contributions to your education. Be free. Education in America costs a fortune. Why?
Yeah, well, and it's also, it creates, to me, Colorado has a ballot initiative this election for single-payer health care, which is what we should have done as a country. But the point is that what Colorado is saying is, let's give health care to all our citizens of our state so that there's not this resentment. When resentment creeps in, you have this, but I don't have this. No, we're all in it together. I mean, it's a symbolic thing. I mean, in my mind, Bernie Sanders, if he got elected, just for 4 years, if Bernie Sanders got elected, even for 4 years, just one term, and maybe no legislation was ever passed, it wouldn't matter, because just his use of the bully pulpit would help shift the consciousness in a very healthy direction, as opposed to the opposite side where you have Donald Trump and this sort of, I mean, there is this sector of our country that says, we're going over the cliff, and we're going to take everybody with us, and we don't care. That's scary. It's a very scary situation.
Right on, Jake. Yeah.
But I want to go back.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but it's so ridiculous. It's true.
Well, no, and thankfully, I see it clearly, but I have faith. My older daughter is 10 years old. I see her generation being this somewhat of a savior generation, but that means we have about another 10 to 15 years of a morass that you were talking about. But John, I want to. You were talking before about not thinking on the bandstand, and just because if you're thinking, you're not playing. I have another quote here from. I'm just going to read this to you. I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to have you guess who it is. You're not going to know who it is. But I want. This is going to lead into my question. Now, this is a drummer. He says, at the beginning of Mahavishnu Orchestra's show, during that period of time, which is 1972, John McLaughlin would stand in the middle of the stage in his full white uniform and would ask the audience to be quiet for a minute, for everyone to be completely still. Now, this is a crowded auditorium and there's people coughing. But when he hung his head and asked for silence, you could see this wave of tranquility completely overtake the whole auditorium. It would start at the front, and it would get silent and more silent until it was absolutely dead still. The only thing you could hear was maybe an air conditioning unit. We would get goosebumps every night, and then he would start the guitar riff for Intermounting Flame. That drummer is a drummer, Russ Kunkel, who was with the section, and the section used to open for you guys. Peter Asher was their manager, and he got them to open for you. And I've talked to all those guys, and they said that you and that band were so nice, but also they learned so much from you about not just, I mean, it had nothing to do with music, but it had the idea of, I guess my question is, at that time, you had become one of Sri Chinmoy's disciples. You were trying to access more peace in your mind. You would start the concert. What was the idea there of asking for complete silence and then engaging the audience? Do you still do that in your performances?
No, I haven't done it in a long time. But at that period, this is something I wanted to do, because you get in front of an audience and everybody's like, excited, and all of a sudden you say, wow, hey, and it's a kind of a shock. It's almost a kind of a psychological shock that somebody says, let's just try it for a minute, and your mind kind of wavers, what is he doing? Why? And but at the same time, everybody, because you say that, you have a minute of silence, everybody does it. everybody goes into a silent mode. When you go to a silent mode collectively with a lot of people together, and you know something's going to happen soon, it's like your mind moves, your consciousness changes. It's just it's very subtle, it's very light, but I really like to be in the silence with the people, because what's music without a silence? If there's no silence in the notes, there's no music. Silence is as important as the note. And to emphasize the silence instead of the note is a psychological trick in a way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it puts people in a different state of mind. Now, I got to tell you a little anecdote.
Go ahead.
Funny.
Yeah.
Because it was one night, you know, and it's okay. It would be so great. Let's just be quiet for a minute. 1 minute, all together. You know? And about 7 seconds later, I hear this thin little reedy voice, like, it says, "Oh no, now I'm peeking." And I started to laugh because it was just so beautiful. It was beautiful, and I turned around to the bar and said, "Let's hear it." I just cracked up. You know, this poor guy, he just whatever he hit. He just had his joint or whatever.
Right, he's tripping out, and he can't handle it.
But the way he expressed it was just so touching. I started laughing, and we just hit it. So we gave it to him. Lock, stock, and 2 smoking barrels.
That is just fantastic stuff. You know, because you just, you know, I've been talking to a lot of cats this year from England, and one guy was a guy named Sam Cutler, who was the manager for the Stones and the Grateful Dead, and I was asking him about the beat writers, the Beatnik writers that were in England, and he said that in England after World War II, obviously it was a very gloomy time. Towns were absolutely pillaged, but he said that if you, unlike America at that time, if you were from a blue-collar or middle-class background, you could not be a writer. You were not considered a writer. And, you know, but I look at a lot of the bands, Mahavishnu to a degree, but a lot of the psychedelic rock bands that came out, even the jazz that was going on, bebop to a degree, very much inspired by the beat poets, Ferlinghetti and Ginsberg and the renditions of Howl with a jazz band in the background. And I was like, God, was Johnny ever, did you get off on, were you inspired by the beat poets, and were there cats in England, writers, that had an influence on you?
Well, first of all, before I came to New York, I was living in Belgium for a while. But even before I moved to Belgium, I was working regularly with a poet. And in fact, he ended up writing all the lyrics for the Cream song.
What was his name?
Pete Brown. No, you probably don't know because he's a lyrical man, but he was a poet. And so we were I was in his group, which was like a jazz poetry band, you know, and he did poetry, and the musicians would just react to that, you know. We have a simple structure, but with a lot of liberty to improvise around what we hear the words and we respond with music, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So we were part of that generation, and I mean, we got started in the 50s, really, with the Kerouac and people like that in America, and subsequently in the UK. But it was a very important movement to me. It's so much so that even in Lifetime, you probably never saw Lifetime.
No, I was born in 1978. I was long gone. Yeah. Never saw Lifetime. Still have never seen you live. Yeah.
In ghetto.
Yes.
Slugs.
Slugs. Oh God, yeah.
And no, it was there was some neighborhood, but what a club! And so we were playing a lot down there. 4 1-hour sets a night.
Oh.
This is where you get it together.
Oh man.
But one of the things we were doing in life, and I was actually, because I would write poetry. I like to write poetry, and I would read poetry. Tony would maybe even sing some notes. He'd play. Larry would do some wild sounds, and then we kick off and start playing. But in a way, the lyrics they're part of music too. I think they had a very powerful impact on me. But I'm a voracious reader.
Yeah.
I've had my eyes done twice by a friend of mine. In fact, I leave for London tomorrow to get my eyes done again because I'm just I devour books, and but at my age, your eyes start going, and so I'm going to have my eyes fixed so I can read even better. So just the written word, and some authors and some poets, of course, have had a very strong impact on me.
Can you talk a little? Can you talk about being in Belgium with this cat, this poet? I don't ever remember seeing anything about this. To me, it's like
we were playing in gigs we would open up to Pink Floyd,
wow,
or the bands. It's before Floyd was real, and we were going back to like 66, something like this, 65, 66, a long time ago. And Floyd, they were kind of getting big, but they weren't that big, and so there were double concerts. But it was a whole other epoch, a whole other era, Jake. Because even when, let's take Lifetime played opposite, who was it? Something like,
was it like Gil Scott-Heron or Oscar Brown Jr. or Amiri Baraka or anyone like that?
No, but let's move forward a little bit to Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu, like George Carlin, I spoke about.
Sure.
Barry Anderson, Richard Pryor opened up to Miles Davis, particularly skate I have never seen an audience beg somebody to stop, because the audience was collectively on its knees begging Richard to stop. I have never seen anything. I have never had such a pain in my stomach, and we all were. Richard was unbelievable. But we used to gigs with James Taylor. James Taylor and Mahavishnu Orchestra. Crazy. Riders of the Purple Sage. We do things with, remember, Jerry Garcia, he had another band, another dead band. And we did gigs together. That's where I got to know Jerry. But I remember doing, with Lifetime, we played opposite The Who. Lifetime? This is radical, new wave, like crazy.
Well, hold on, I want to go back, because I'm so glad you brought this up, because Mahavishnu, Jerry had this, Garcia had a band, and it was the first time that he played opposite you.
I'm sorry, hold on a second. Hold on.
Sure.
Sorry, say again. Who had the band, Jake?
Okay, so Jerry Garcia had a band, and you guys played in Boston together, and he was quoted as saying that he was a little bit intimidated by you because you were playing so many notes, but you got to know Garcia.
Yeah, I know. But I'm not the only one. But Jerry, as a person, was very sweet. I've had that accusation for more years than I can remember. But I don't care what people say. I have to stay true to my own music.
Absolutely.
And that's it. and I'll appreciate people for what they do. But I know Zappa had a few things to say about me too. But I had a few things to say about Zappa in his 20 minutes.
No. I didn't mean it. No, it piqued my interest because
I reduced to 2 minutes.
No, I mean, listen. The only reason I brought that up is because you said you got to know Jerry, and I can't think of two more sweeter, more melodic improvisers on the guitar than you and Jerry. And I think it's really nice that you did even get to know each other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, but we do. I mean, I remember with Shakti, we opened up to Metallica, I think, at one point. Can you imagine?
That's insane. That is insane.
Yeah. There's some Black Sabbath. No, it wasn't Metallica. It was Black Sabbath.
Oh, my. Yeah, Ozzy Osbourne.
No, but the thing is, that the attitude in those days was like, it's like if you're a kind of band like that, then the opening band's got to be totally different. Today, it's like you got to be the same. The fusion band, you put a fusion band. If you got a rap band, it's a rap band. If it's like smooth jazz, it's smooth jazz. It's terrible. But in those days, the promoters, they said, well, listen, we got to expose the people to different kinds of things, to find out what they dig and what they don't dig. It was a beautiful attitude on the part of the promoters because they would mix everything up. One of the greatest combinations ever that went in America and in Europe was Shakti with Weather Report.
To me, that is scintillating. That is just scintillating. To me, that's just amazing.
It was one of the greatest combinations, one of the most successful combinations on tour. It was unbelievable. All over Europe, all over America. And on night, because the musicians were into it. Weather Report, of course, Jacko's time, and Jacko being in Weather Report, and of course Joe and Wayne, whom I've known since the 60s. And we'd all be on the side of the stage listening to Weather Report, and when we played, they'd all be on the side of the stage listening to us. So there was a really strong musical thing going on between the two bands, and the audiences, they loved it. They loved it. And we sometimes jammed together. Can you imagine Shakti with Weather Report in a collective jam?
Well, it's fun. Who I did? Well, I last week I did 2-hour interview with Miroslav Vitous. And okay, so Miroslav was very candid. I wanted to ask you about playing from the heavens and the idea of basically knowing your technique and knowing your instrument and then allowing the music to come through you. He said, now you can take this with a grain of salt too, because I'm sure when he left the band he wasn't thrilled with the direction that Weather Report was going in, but he said that Zawinul Wayne could play from the heavens. I think he mentioned you and Miles. The idea of playing from the heavens. He said Joe could not play from the heavens. There were times when they would get into this transcendent period of the music, and Joe would just kind of go down his keyboard and just start playing one of his tunes because he could not let go of his ego. He could not let go of that. It was just, to me, it was...
Yeah, definitely Miroslav has a point. Miroslav has a point there. I knew Miroslav very well. But, for example, I crossed words with Joe on several occasions. And people can be mean. And musicians can be no exception sometimes. And he was pretty mean to me and my band. And, but at the same time, you got to see beyond that. You got to see, look at the contribution him and Wayne made to contemporary music. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Anyway, after this particular instance, we were on tour together, his band and my band, and he really was very unkind to us. He wasn't happy with his band, and our band was killing. This is what bothered him.
Right.
In any event, after we went home, and Joe had been really unpleasant, I went home and I wrote a song called Joe Z. It was dedicated to him. That I recorded around 86, something like that, on the last Mahavishnu record with Bill Evans on tenor sax. And Joe got a hold of, somebody told him about this tune. And next time I saw him, he came to me, man, and he just said, man, I love you, man. And he gave me a hug. He saw, and he had this kind of crisis of conscience. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. No, I mean, this is exactly what the world... Well, continue, please, continue.
Yeah, no, it's just, but if you even if you got to see beyond it might be being mean that day, but what have they done? These people have done wonderful things to music. They've given so much happiness to me and to other people. You got to take that into account. You can't just say, "Oh man, you mean," and okay, well, screw you. No, and you got to turn it around. And so, if you do something nice to them after they've been mean to you, they're your friend for life. Because from that point on, he was my true friend. He realized where I was coming from, and he was a real human being. Of course, he has faults. I got faults. We've all got faults. So what? We do the best we can, and sometimes life is really shitty to us, isn't it?
It sure is.
And you flip. Everybody flips every now and then. What to do? You just got to deal with it, and you deal with your own ego, and deal with your own, issues that are going on in your life, in your personal life, or whatever. We all have to deal with it. But I think we have to be kind to each other, and that's really it. If we're kind to each other, then everything's fine. Even if other person's mean, so what? Get over it. Be kind. You know what I'm saying? Have a bigger heart instead of being small. That's all. But we're not there yet.
No, I mean, this is like, I mean, to me, you knew you were cognizant enough that your ego didn't get elevated because Mahavishnu was really on fire. You knew that he was disgruntled about his own band, and instead of just sort of saying, well, screw him, I'm the man, you went out and wrote a tune for him. And I do that. I run into these things.
I loved him, even though he was mean.
Right.
But the thing is, well, let's come back just for a second to meditation.
Yeah.
The thing, you start meditating. I mean, seriously. I mean, you're up at 4:30 in the morning, all alone, and you're like you're hacking through that jungle with a machete. It's called your mind. And after a few years, you start to realize what you are and who you are, and how full of fault you are, and you realize that we're all the same. We've all got these things, all good and bad. So let's just be kind to each other. You know what I'm saying? And life's much easier like that, isn't it? Instead of just keeping this myopic view, man, how dare you speak to me like that? Why should we be so self-important? We're not. I'm not important. Nobody's really important, and then we're all important. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but everybody starts tripping, because it's like the sense of self-importance. How can you do that to me? How can you say that to me? How can you do this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just this aggravated self-importance. I mean, forget it. Forget it. When nobody's important. I'm not as important. I'm no more important than the guy sweeping the street. I just have to play guitar. That's all. And he's sweeping the street. But there's some guy sweeping the street beautifully. And I've seen people in different parts of the world, and they're doing things in a perfect way. I got to tell you, I met a baker. I was in a baker's shop in Paris one day, and I saw a perfect baker. He was perfect. The way his cakes were baked, the way his bread was baked, the way he treated treated his bread and cake, the way he talked to his bread. He's talking to his cake. I mean, and that, so you see it everywhere. You see it everywhere. And this guy thinks he's important? No. Why should I think I'm important? Stupid. It's a waste of time, and it gets you into trouble on top of it. So why bother? But, we have to see things. The thing about meditation is you start to see how truly imperfect you are. And music does that too. You start learning an instrument, and you realize how incompetent and unable and just like not stupid but clumsy and ineffectual you are. And so these are all lessons in humility in a way that are all important because they realize that the sense of self-importance is a big delusion. We all need these kind of lessons.
Can you, like, I read somewhere, I saw something come across the wire last year about a supergroup coming together with Carlos and Wayne, yourself, and Herbie Hancock. And if that is...
Yeah, this was...
here's my question. No, I really...
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, no, okay, so my question is that we're dealing with a collective group of... It is a super group. But, I mean, I don't know, part of me is conflicted when I heard it because I say, what is the best way for these cats to help spread, like you said, be nice to people, spread enlightenment, spread consciousness beyond just playing like, I realize that you're not into getting as much money as possible, but to me, the promoters on this thing, it's like it's going to be the biggest venues to the most people, blow it out, and make it very commercial. And I was thinking this morning, I said, what is the question I really want to ask John? And the question is, what does this thing look like to you? How much do you want to engage the audience in even storytelling? I mean, to me, this is like, it's just like, it's an all-star team. I don't know who's on drums, but it's like, I mean, to me, it's like, how can this be?
Alice's wife, probably.
Who's that?
First of all, it came up as an idea last year.
Yeah.
In Switzerland, in Montreux, where I was doing a jam with Carlos. Carlos was there with his band, and I sat in, as I always do, play a couple of tunes. And then the day before he left, we were there for a couple of days. He called a kind of reunion between the directors of the festival and me, and he said, listen, I've got a great idea. He loves Wayne and Herbie. I mean, he would love to be associated in a musical way with Wayne and Herbie, because these are consummate musicians. They are the essence of jazz music. And in a sense, they're like the teachers they're the gurus of jazz, these guys. They're marvelous musicians. I'm just very fortunate to know them and to play with them. And Carlos had this idea, him and me, because we go back many years,
sure,
45 years, and this group, and he wanted to base it around one of Wayne's albums called Supernova. In 1969 or 1970, maybe.
Yeah, were you on that? I know Miroslav was on that.
Yeah, with Sonny Sharrock, yeah.
Okay, cool.
And I thought, that sounds cool. Herbie Wayne, and we can do a little guitar screaming, and we'll get some beautiful music from Herbie and Wayne.
Right.
I think Cindy Blackman, Carlos's wife, she was in on drums.
Oh, that's right. Okay, right on.
Maybe Marcus Miller on bass. In any event, so he's going on, and I'm saying, well, let's make an event, because there was a time where Carlos and I, we played in New York in 1972, 73.
Sure.
And we made a float truck and we got power on the back of the flatbed truck. We put power and amps on the truck, and we played. We were playing guitars, driving down Broadway.
Oh my God!
You know.
Oh, this is.
So I said to him, let's do that. You know, let's get on the truck. You know, the other musicians, they can, or if they want. If they don't want, that's fine. But you and me, let's get on the truck and just play. You know, going through the town of Montreux in Switzerland. And so this is like, and we can create a buzz, you know, for the concert. And the idea behind it was to also invite great musicians from different cultures all over the world to play with us. Get it? So it's kind of a globalization of music from these great players. And I was happy to be part of the idea. The idea is great. So just before Christmas, I get a call from Montreux and in Switzerland, and they said, Carlos's agent just called and canceled. I said, what? I said, well, he didn't call me. And they said, well, we don't know anything about that. And so I wrote to him. I said, oh, you know, what's going on? And but I didn't get an answer. So I haven't really seen him since then. But I know he's put the kind of Supernova band together with Herbie and Wayne, and they're going to play the Hollywood Bowl. But I'm not included, you know. And actually, it's not a bad idea that I'm not there. In a way, I feel a little bit of what you spoke about at the beginning, that maybe it's the idea and the intentions are good, but how is it realized? And this is really important. And to come back to your other question, you know, your question is a trap, because if I answer your question about how to spread enlightenment, because then do I have the pretension to think I'm enlightened? I mean, I'm just another stupid guy playing guitar.
Sure. Yeah. No.
But music itself is the enlightening power, and we're all blessed by that particular power. And my best way is I do it with my band, the Fourth Dimension, because here we have, it's a band that existed for years, and there's a very strong musical and spiritual complicity. You understand?
I do.
When you have a strong complicity, emotional, musical, and even spiritual, for want of another word, because we all have different spiritual visions, but they are united in the band. And that, all of that complicity comes through in the music, comes through the notes. Because without that, we're just playing notes. And music is not about notes. It's the notes and what's inside the notes. And it's the richness of the experience of the players and the complicity they have together that fills the notes with emotions. And Shakti's like that too. I mean, I put Shakti on the back burner because, you know, 18 months ago we lost Srinivas,
Sure.
45 years old, and he died of liver failure. I mean, and since then I haven't had the heart to even think about a replacement. How can I replace a genius? You know, a beautiful human being with whom I had 14 years experience. It's like, it's nutty. But I'm gradually coming around to the idea that I could find somebody who could come into that band. But the criteria of that, what I'm talking about, is like, it can only work if there's a very strong musical and emotional and spiritual complicity between the players. And I would hope that the Supernova band would develop this complicity, because this, in my opinion, is what gives the music its true meaning.
Well, what I think is really, I want to stop you for, yeah, I mean, what I think is so beautiful, man, is that, you know, most people are everybody is insecure. Like you said, you're just a guitar player, you know? But you know, I mean, you have this jam session with Carlos at Montreux. He's totally eager. You come up with the idea saying, let's share it. Let's make it world music. Let's get it in the streets. Let's make sure that we, not just the idea, but let's make sure that the actual practical application of it is also, and then the handlers get involved. And the managers get involved, and the corporations get involved, and then it's, let's just get him up there fiddling over at the Hollywood Bowl, and we'll all make a buck, and who cares, because music's about pacification now. I mean, that to me, and the fact that you can not hear from but I think the more important thing is that you don't hear from Carlos, he doesn't communicate with you, but you're not upset, that's not going to bother you. I don't know. Just to be able to let go of that is important.
Yes, I regret that. But nevertheless, I love him. He's a sweetheart, and he's a very dear friend. And he's got his reasons, whatever they may be. So that's cool. I don't have a problem with that. No, but listen. I'm an old hippie. Come on, Jake. I don't want anything to be a problem to me anymore. Why should I make an issue out of it? It's not important.
He's not important.
I'm not important.
Well, no, I just love you are important because of your point of view and because of how people perceive you, and you come across as a grounded human being. I have one final question in set 3. Like Lifetime, we'll do 4 1-hour sets at some point, but in this set 3,
in the Hell's Kitchen.
In the Hell's Kitchen.
Or the East Village became chic.
Can you talk about when you came to New York? Tony Williams picked you up at the airport. I've transcribed basically all of our first 2 interviews. I must tell you, some of the excerpts that I've put up on new media have just resonated with people all over the world.
I'm happy for you.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's and I feel blessed to be doing it. I really do. I just love the path. But can you talk about? I feel one of your peers from the guitar point of view when you got to New York was Pat Martino. Did you know Pat?
Oh yeah. I met him only once. I know. And it's funny, some people don't cry. And he's one of those guys, only once in my life, and I had the opportunity to shake his hand and tell him how much I enjoyed his playing. And this guy, man, what he went through.
I know.
Oh.
I know.
Oh, man.
I know. Well, no, I mean, Pat and I are dear friends. The guy, I mean, he talks about being at the bottom of the pit, which is the best place to be, is the bottom of the pit, because there's nowhere to go but up. He opened his eyes after that. He opened his eyes after that surgery, and he opened his eyes, and he could not recognize his parents. He had.
I know. This is a victory of the spirit. This is a real victory of the spirit. I got so much admiration for him. It's unbelievable. He's amazing.
Well, because so here's the thing. When did Johnny McLaughlin? Can you talk about the first time that you went to Africa to play music?
When I went to Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say Africa?
I did say Africa. I was hoping that you'd say you went with Lifetime or Miles.
Are you asking me the first time I played in Africa?
Yeah. I really want you to talk about the first time you went to where all music is based, is the rhythms of Africa. So I want to ask Johnny McLaughlin.
And I mean, I've been to Africa a number of times, but I have never ever played in Africa.
No way, really? No jazz fest, nothing.
No, I played everywhere else in the world. I have never played in Africa.
Wow.
But I have been to Africa, and I had a band in the UK with musicians from South Africa.
Dudu Pukwana.
Yes, exactly. Johnny Piani.
Unbelievable.
Great players. I was a quartet, and there were 3 South Africans in the band. and that was a kicking band. Oh yes, that was a beautiful band. No, unfortunately, I never got to play because don't forget at that time I was when was the changeover? There was apartheid going there. I know, and they had this great casino resort, but it was the stars that went down there. They didn't want a jazz player, didn't want a fusion player down there. I had friends from there, Johnny Fourie, a guitar player from there, one of the greatest guitar players I ever met, who passed away a few years back, unfortunately. But I've never been to play in Africa. I've been to South Africa, of course. I've been to Zimbabwe. I've been to Zambia. I've been to, and I've seen the people and listened to the music, and I love it. But even before I went there, I'm going back. Do you ever hear of a musician called Olatunji?
Babatunde Olatunji?
Olatunji.
I do, yes, of course, yes.
Yeah, this guy had a drum ensemble, percussion ensemble, and this, I had his record in the 50s. He's probably no longer around, but he was killing, and I learned so much from that one record, just rhythms and songs from Africa. Wonderful.
Yeah,
unfortunately, I played almost everywhere else in the world, but never in Africa. Isn't that weird?
I'll tell you, I can't believe that if I would have bet some amount of money that you went to some jazz fest or some kind of when I talk to guys like Bobby Hutcherson, they talk about going to Medina and then how it affected their playing the. They stopped playing the traditional 1-4-5 blues scales, but it's just I was hoping that I just feel like maybe you and Gary Husband and your band needs to get there and start pounding away. But
I would hope so.
Yeah,
because in Morocco, there's a festival I think it's always in Tunisia, in the city of Fez, and this is North Africa. We're talking North Africa.
Sure.
This is not Central Africa and South Africa, but this is more like Tunisia, Morocco, where the music is more. It's African in a way, but it has more kind of Middle Eastern Arabic influence.
Absolutely.
It's closer. But I'm a big fan of all music. You know that. To my mind, all music is good. The only difference is it shallow or is it full of passion? Is it well played or is it not well played? Apart from that, it's all good for me. And I just got a big wave. Like I gotta go, Jake. Are you cool?
Hey, love you, man. Talk to you soon.
You too. Always a pleasure, man. You take care of yourself.
Take care, Johnny. Talk to you soon, man.
God bless.
You too.
Yeah.
God bless. Bye-bye.